Hi, my name is Tammy Miner-Shagan. I'm the Executive Director of Frisco Arts. We are the city's official arts advocacy agency, and thanks for joining us today. Normally, we usually just meet once a month for Ladies Who Launch, but since we're all still stuck at home, Lori and I talked and we decided to add in a bonus one. So I'm glad you're here and joining us. If this is your first time with Ladies Who Launch, typically we are meeting with a big group at Crest Infinity, and we have lunch together, and then we have a panel of one woman who's full-time in the arts and another who's full-time in business, and we discuss the intersection of the two. So obviously with COVID-19, everybody's had to pivot and do something totally different. But with crisis comes opportunity, right? So who better to change things up and try to be creative than people in the arts. So now we are virtual for Ladies Who Launch for a little while, and I do look forward to seeing everybody in person very soon. The format today is that I'll share a few announcements, and then we'll hear from our presenting sponsor with her takeaways from the last meeting. And then we'll get to our two panelists who are just doing an amazing job right now and such creative people. So I know you're going to come away with something inspirational and an encouragement for you along your journey today. It is Facebook Live right now, so you can comment in and share a question. We'll do our best to get to it, and want to say thank you to Anthony Barocas from stream4.us. He is our live stream producer. So if you have any live stream needs, definitely talk to Anthony. Thank you, Anthony, for all you're doing behind the scenes. There he is, the man behind the curtain. All right, so we're going to get to our announcements. The first is that, obviously as an arts advocacy agency, our heart is to build a stronger community with the arts. We believe that the arts are very important, and especially right now. So on our website, we have a page of resources for all of our artists, our arts organizations, and if you're an arts lover. One of the quotes that we put up there is, if you think artists are useless, try to spend your quarantine without music, books, poems, movies, paintings, and games. I mean, really, we need our artists to keep creating, and we need them because we need to stay sane during this time. So on this page, you're going to find resources, financial and also things to do, and then some of the programs that we put together for our Frisco Arts community. So check it out at friscoarts.org. And if you have something you'd like to add to this list, you can definitely email me at tammy@friscoarts.org. Also, next Tuesday, we're going to be featuring our Smart Men. It's a Smart Men Spotlight. And we'll have Stephen Ross, who is the City of Frisco's Public Art Administrator, and Swad Bedovic, who is with Swad Bedovic Photography and also a board member with the Frisco Chamber of Commerce. We'll hear from them about their stories, inspiration, public art, photography, and what's coming next in their world. So I hope you can join us then. We also have for our students, now that school is actually, officially out, we want to encourage you to keep creating, and we're putting together an online and print magazine called the Quarantine. So we invite you to share your photography, your artwork, recipes, poetry, short stories, whatever you're doing to creatively document your time in quarantine. You can get more information if you just go to our register tab on our Frisco Arts website, and you can also check out the Youth Ambassadors page there too to learn more about it. But we're really excited to showcase what our students are doing during this time. And then lastly, we have another unique quarantini coming up. So for our Frisco Arts members, we have missed seeing you all and hanging out for our networking evenings, but this one is going to be another virtual networking night called the Quarantini, and it's an 80s music and trivia night. So you need to dust off those muscle shirts and leg warmers and pump up your hair in your best 80s gear. We'll have some sing-alongs, we'll have some 80s band trivia, name that tune, and even a special guest performer. So you can register for this at friscoarts.org. This is sponsored by our wickedly awesome friends at New York Life. So that's it for the announcements. Let's get to our presenting sponsor, Lori McCagran. Lori, thanks for joining us again today and for your support of this program. We could not do it without you.
Well, and we also couldn't do it without Anthony. So thank you, Anthony, again for helping us make this possible. And we get a bonus in April since we now have to figure out where to hold it or what to eat.
I know, it's perfect.
Yes. So thank goodness for Facebook Live. So I always like to kind of recap from the last meeting. Those who are regulars know that I take notes during the meeting in a little place in my phone called Wisdom from Ladies Who Launch. And then I usually share like my top 3 takeaways from the last meeting. And the winner from last week definitely has to be joy is essential. So thank you, Lillian, for sharing that with us and reminding us that joy is essential all the time. And then kind of the other 2 are from the best advice question. And that is from Lillian's dad, which is a smile on your face goes a long way. Kind of reminds me of when Zig Ziglar or somebody had said, if you see someone without a smile, share and give them yours. So love that. And then I really loved how Shannon, kind of gave herself some grace as she aged. And so what she would tell her younger self was, it's just be you and that's okay, and not get caught up in being a people pleaser. And so those are my top 3 from last week. Awesome. So for those who are new or maybe don't know, I'm Lori McCagran with Union Home Mortgage. I'm the producing area manager. So I help people with home loans, but I'm also building the North Texas area for my company. So my little mortgage plug for today is, I know a lot of people know mortgage professionals, and our company is really thriving and growing during this time and just handling all the turbulence like a champ. So if you have a friend who is a mortgage loan officer or branch manager, and maybe they're feeling some stress for their company, would love to have a conversation with them about how maybe Union Home can help them continue to grow their business and deliver world-class customer service to help them continue to grow even in a turbulent market.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I mean, it is a kind of a crazy time, but we need to have people like you that are helping us stay kind of centered, focused, and normal. So I appreciate all that you're doing, Lori, not only just, for Ladies Who Launch, but in your career as well, because it's helping other people to center themselves. So yes, definitely reach out to Lori if you have any questions. And thank you for joining us again, Lori, and for those top 3 takeaways. Those are great. And I really think you need to put together a little booklet, like you could have like a little calendar booklet or something of all your top takeaways. I think we should do that. We'll talk.
That's a good idea. And we can get some fabulous illustrators.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, we can have the photos of the ladies. We can have we're going to do it.
It's a project.
Yes. New project. Okay. Well, thank you, Lori, again. And now we're going to introduce our panelists for today. So our first panelist is Kalika Antau. She is a local artist who finds her inspiration in the beauty of nature all around us. She has exhibited her work in numerous professional galleries and has been recognized by members of Oil Painters of America. In addition to being a member of Frisco Arts, Kalika is a board member of the Visual Arts Guild of Frisco, a member of the Visual Art League of Louisville, Plano Art Association, Texas Visual Art Association, Visual Art League of Allen, and McKinney Art Club. She loves the arts. And we also have Chelsea Rogers with us. And Chelsea is the founder of Color Hype. She has a business administration degree and an MBA. She's a former art teacher at Princeton ISD and Centennial and Heritage High School in Frisco ISD. She started Color Hype in 2018. They find unique locations to host public creative classes and also private events, including Paint Your Pet, Acrylic Pour, the Dallas Skyline, and Succulents. So we'll hear more about that today. She has partnered with local restaurants to host her classes in their spaces, and she's married to Josh Rogers and has a 10-year-old son named Carter, also a member of Frisco Arts. So, welcome, ladies, to Ladies Who Launch Virtual edition. Thanks for
Hi.
being here. All look great. So, we're going to kind of step back in time a little bit. And Kalika, I'll start with you. Tell us a little bit about, where you grew up and then how you ended up coming out here to the DFW area.
Okay, all right. For a minute
Oh,
there, I'm sorry. For a
we're
minute there, I
frozen?
was frozen. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was. Okay, I'm all right. All right, thank you. Okay, first of all, thank you, Tammy and Frisco Arts, for inviting me here to this conversation and to
Oh,
joining the Ladies Who Launch program. Yeah, it's really an honor to be part of it. Can, can you all hear me?
thank you. Yes, yes. Thank you,
Can you? Yeah.
Kalika.
Okay. Okay. Sorry. All right. I'll keep going.
That's okay.
So how did I end up in the Dallas area? It's a long story. I grew up in India, was born and raised in India, and I was migrated to the United States with my family when I was 16 years of age. Um, we went to West Virginia. I went to high school. There's my picture. I think I'm 10 years old in that picture, and those are some of the swimming trophies that I had won at that time. And I think we'll talk a little bit more about that coming up here. So we went to a small town in West Virginia. Um, I went to high school there, and then my father and my parents moved to Oklahoma, and that's where I went to nursing school. And then after marriage, moved to Boston. I was there for about 3 years, and my husband at the time was used to work for Texas Instruments, which is headquarters here in Richardson, Texas, and that's what brought me to the Dallas area. We moved here in 1980. That's one of my pictures in the LR as part of my healthcare career. We'll talk a little bit about that as well
Yeah.
as we go on. But that's how I ended up here in the Dallas area. That's what brought me here. Been here since 1980, and I know I'm going to be dating and aging myself, but that's
That's
okay.
okay.
Both my children,
Yeah.
both my children were born here, and I've seen a lot of growth and a lot of change in this area, and so much so, and I've been here long enough that I think by now I actually consider myself to be a Texan.
Wow.
That's
Those are
that's
big
my
words.
journey. Yeah.
I'm not sure I would call myself a Texan yet. It's been like 13, 14 years. I still haven't, I don't know. I don't use the word y'all, so I'm still working on that. Uh,
Well, yeah.
Chelsea, yeah, go ahead. Chelsea, let's go to you about your background and how you ended up coming out here to the DFW area.
Sure. So I am originally from Texarkana, Texas, and we made the move to Dallas, Texas in about 5 years ago. So we decided that we wanted to kind of get out of the small town. We love the small town, families from the small town, but we wanted to kind of explore some different things and explore some different cities. And it's always been a dream of ours to move to a bigger city. So we made that leap and started off in downtown Plano, which was super fun because we lived right next to the Dart, and that
Mm-hmm.
was really cool to hop right down
Yeah.
to downtown Dallas. And then we moved to Princeton, Texas, because I got my first job teaching high school art there. And then a few years later, we moved to Frisco, and I worked in Frisco for a few years as well. So yeah.
Yes, very cool. So do you guys, Kalika, let's start with you. Do you remember or an experience, like maybe your first experience or something where you really were excited about the power of art and it really drew you in?
Right. Yeah, I do remember a lot of different instances. Growing up in India, I was always interested in art. I started out copying cartoons from the Sunday paper back home. Then I started sketching and charcoal portraits of famous people, like film actors and things like people like that. And then I started painting floral paintings. Oh, that's in our home in India. I'm pretty young there. I think I was about 20
Love it.
something
Beautiful.
at that time. So anyway, anyway, yeah, growing up in
I
India,
want that dress, Kalika.
yeah, dressed up in all the Indian stuff. Yeah, I
Yes.
still like to wear those. I mean, there's not too many occasions I get to wear that, but I do enjoy wearing the sari more than the more
Mhm.
modern Indian outfits. So anyway, I started doing that, and my mother at the time would enter me in different exhibits and art competitions, although I never really won anything at that time.
Mhm.
We also would make greeting cards, and my mother would then invite family and friends over, and we would sell those greeting cards to our friends and family, something like 10 cents a piece, or even less than that
Uh-huh.
in Indian currency back in the days. Um, so with that, art was always also an escape for me, stress relief, my place to
Mhm.
go. Art and swimming were two things that were my escape and stress relief and places to go.
Yeah.
I treasure my time alone, and I
Mhm.
know my artist friends out there know that artists usually work by themselves. A lot of them tend to be loners, but
Uh-huh.
by far we work by ourselves. So those are some of the things and experiences that I had that kind of influenced my
Mhm.
interest in art.
I love the fact that you were both an artist and an athlete. You're
Yeah.
a competitive swimmer. So,
I was actually a competitive swimmer as well.
Yes.
what? I love when
Yes,
that
Oh,
it's so
happens. Like,
weird.
how about
did not
that?
know that. That is
Oh,
amazing. And both of
nice.
you are artists and
Yeah.
competitive swimmers. Okay, well, I'm neither.
How about that?
Uh, so Chelsea, do you recall like your an experience that really drew you to the arts from a young age?
Yes. So, okay. Well, first of all, I grew up right next door to an artist who she was. We would drive by her house and you could see her top story, and she would have her little studio up there and she would be painting. And I remember at a very young age thinking, man, I really want, I was just drawn to it. Like I'd never, taken art classes. I never took art classes really throughout high school. I only took one art class in college, which was an art appreciation class. And the most we did was like a Jackson Pollock kind of thing where we splattered paint. And so, I mean, I was really more into theater, but also a swimmer. So I wasn't ever concerned with really kind of experiencing that. But I remember as a young kid, we would throw like baseballs over her, over our into her yard, just so that we could run through. And she had this little koi pond, and we would like run through and. I would just like be so amazed by all of her artwork everywhere, just hanging on the walls. And we would ask to go get the ball from the backyard. And anyways, we told her that a lot later in life and everything. But she was always the person that really kind of influenced me.
Mhm.
Not super directly, but I just kind of see it, and there's just a like a passion that kind of developed from that was just underlying. I feel like that I
That
didn't
is
really know
so
how to
cool.
tap into. Yeah.
Right, right. It's neat when you think about those experiences as a kid, and a lot of times like that neighbor probably doesn't know how much that affected you,
Right.
and who you've become today. And so it's just it's really cool. I think that artists, wherever you are, I know Kalika, you said kind of alone, but alone but effective. I mean, you're still making a big impact
Yeah,
by doing what you're doing. And
right.
especially if you just have it out and people are seeing it, you don't really actually realize the significant impact you're making in people's lives.
Yeah.
And I think that's very special. So, so Chelsea, I know you were an art teacher and you were self-taught. As I read your bios, both of you guys were self-taught, which is really cool too. But you were still able to, get into the teaching career, and you had that for a little while. So I didn't put this in your questions, but I did want to ask, from your experience as a teacher, what did you love the most?
I really loved that personal relationship that you develop with a student, right? Like you get to know them on a deeper level, and you can see. I taught Art 1 mainly, and so as you kind of develop through the school year, you start with the basics. You start with the very understanding, and then you start to develop as an Art 1 teacher. You give them different mediums to work with. So we might work with clay, or we might work with charcoal, or we might work with pastels. And I always would tell them, you might not love this project we're working on right this second, but throughout this year, you're going to look for that one thing that you find, and you're going to, and it was always so cool to see the students kind of realize that and like take ownership of that thing. And then I would encourage them to keep pushing that, whatever that was, whatever they really, really loved from that. And so that's really what I love and what I miss most about teaching high school,
Yeah.
is that just those personal relationships that you develop. I try and still reach out to students that I,
Mhm.
taught, and some of them even kind of work for me, which is cool.
Oh,
So
okay. That's very
yeah,
cool. Yeah.
I put them to use sketching for me and doing different things within the business. So.
No, that's so great. Well, you're right. I mean, it is all relationships, and we always have our favorite teachers, and I'm sure you're one of them. So I think that's great that you did that for a
I would
while.
hope so.
Yeah. So, Kalika, so you started out, so you went from swimming and then nursing school, and you were in healthcare for a while, and then you turned into a full-time artist. So, can you tell us a little bit about the evolution of that? How did that happen?
Mm, That's a long story, right? I'll try to keep it short, but this one's probably going to be a long-winded
That's
answer.
okay.
But anyway, growing up in India, I remember the time when my father had a medical practice. He was a physician, and he would see his patients in the office and then in the hospital as well. Our routine at the time was he would take us to the club swimming first thing every morning. After that, he would go to his office and then would go to school. And after school, my mother would take us back to the club, to the swimming pool for competitions or coaching sessions, practice, so on and so forth. But also at that time, my father was trying to leave India and to migrate to other countries such as United States, Canada, Australia, and Africa. And in order for him to do that, he had to take his medical board exams again to be licensed physician in another country. So he had lots of healthcare books, medical books. And as a curious child, I would browse through those books and spend hours just reading through them and learning about different diseases. That's really where my interest in healthcare began. And after moving to United States and with my heart for helping other people, nursing then became my career. I would still paint every once in a while. Yeah, there, again, here, thank you, Anthony. This is one of my pictures who put all dressed up in wearing a what's called a bunny suit. I was inspecting a surgery department, and I was going into the operating room at this time. And my job as a healthcare leader was to inspect and make sure that the hospitals are meeting accreditation standards, Medicare standards, following CDC guidelines, and all those kinds of things. So I would look at
Mhm.
anesthesia machines, make sure that they're doing all the infection control practices and things like that. But in order to go into the operating room, you can't go in there with street clothes. So that's the garb I had on at that time in that
Yeah.
picture. But anyway, so during my career, I would still paint here and there, one or two paintings. I would go through years without painting or doing anything for my art. During that time and raising a family, photography kind of became an outlet for my art. My kids, if they're out there listening to this, I know they hated that because I was always there in front of their faces with a camera and just like, Mom, go away, Mom. But but you know how that is. And yeah, all our travels there. I'm in Barcelona there. Did quite a bit of world travels with kids and even afterwards as well as an adult. So family pictures. So photography was my outlet for my art. Kids appreciate that now. I've got loads and loads of their pictures, and they love to see their own pictures when they were little kids. But at the
Yes,
time,
definitely.
I was kind of a menace for them. Yeah. So that's kind of that's that's how all of that evolved. And now, about 2 years, almost 2 years ago now, I retired from that and from my career, and started working or started spending most of my time with my art. So, and the
Mm-hmm.
transition was not very easy. It was difficult. I typically think that both the left and right side of my brain is equally strong. So the left side of my brain was like healthcare and science and all of that. But to make that transition to the right side of the artistic side was not easy. In the beginning, when I first retired, I was like, am I really an artist? I had a hard time calling myself an artist
Mm.
because being totally self-taught, I've never had any art education. I just picked up pencils, color pencils or oil paints now or acrylics, and started painting. So it was difficult, but I think now over the 2 years, I've done some exhibits, some gallery shows. I've also done a couple of solo exhibits. So I think over that, and having done that, I think I've made that transition, and
Sure.
I'm comfortable calling myself an artist. Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
was a long
That's
answer, but
so well, no. It's really interesting because how you said, you weren't sure whether you could kind of call yourself an artist. Sorry, I heard a little static
yeah,
there. But but you were always an artist, and I think the same thing with Chelsea. You were both always artists, and it's really like in our understanding of where we are in our life and what we're doing. It's when we decide to kind of grab hold of it and say, yeah, this is actually who I am, and this is how it's going to play out
yeah,
in what I do. But you were always
right,
an artist, and now you claim that as your full time career. But thank you for sharing that
right.
story. And
Yeah,
Chelsea,
yeah, yeah.
I think it's
Especially as
it's
a
similar to
retired.
yours too. Yeah, go ahead. This
Go
is
ahead,
where the
Chelsea.
virtual is weird.
Yeah, I know it is. There's a delay also.
Yeah, there's a delay, and then I'm like, okay, all right. Well, I guess we'll have Chelsea share a little bit about your. Okay, so you were a teacher, and then I know that you had the mural at Legacy Hall come about. Was this before you started Color Hype, or was it after? When did that happen?
Definitely after. So
Okay.
whenever I decided to quit my high school teaching job, which was an incredible decision because it was so hard. It was extremely hard to make that call. I
Mm-hmm.
knew whenever I quit that I needed to go full force with Color Hype in order to make it a full-time job and to host painting classes and be able to provide for my family the way I had been up until I quit teaching. That money was just play money and travel money, so it was pretty nice.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Yeah.
I knew I needed to be able to provide fully, and so once I quit and before I officially quit, I decided to go full force, start talking with a lot of different venues, places that I knew I wanted to be, places that
Mm-hmm.
maybe they were kind of like a big risk, like to ask them, maybe they would say no. Um, and then, so I worked on different venues like that. And so the first one that I actually ever reached out to was Legacy Hall. And before that, I'd only been
Okay.
at hosting classes at like Hula Hut, places like that. So I knew that I wanted some like a bigger venue that was closer to me because I'm based in Frisco. I wanted, and I knew they had a larger reach, and I like that. So I reached out to them, and it took me a while to
Uh-huh.
really kind of get in there. And then whenever I kind of built that relationship, building those relationships is key to having, to being called back to do a mural like this. So I built that relationship with them, and we did a community-wide, I should have sent you the file. We did a community-wide art piece that was an American flag. We pieced together, like all these people came by and did an alcohol inks little paper. And then my husband and I and some friends all put it up together and assembled this huge American flag last July 4th. And I kind of did that as just like a fun thing for them, and then from there they said, okay, we trust you. Let's do some classes. And so we started hosting classes there probably about August of last year. And so they're a pretty strong partner with me. And then they asked me to do the mural. So that's how I kind of got that lead.
Awesome. Yeah, I did not know that. I mean, I had walked by that mural all the time. I had no idea that was you. So
Yeah.
I think that's wonderful. And so like I'm looking at it right now. So it's got some of the different foods that were that
Right.
are
We
actually at
focused on
Legacy
some of the
Hall.
foods, that are at Legacy Hall.
Mhm.
And my husband actually helped design that. And then
Okay.
I just paint. So
Yes. No, that's
yeah.
awesome. So
Yeah.
let's talk about the challenges in your profession. So Kalika, with you first, what would you say is your biggest challenge as a full-time professional artist, and how do you handle it?
Yeah. Well, that's a big question. There are so many challenges. Life is challenging in itself, and for a lot of us. But as making that transition to a professional artist, the biggest challenge I have faced is trying to determine what is the value of my art. And I don't mean value in terms of money or dollars or selling my art. I mean value in terms of what do I bring to people? What is my message? Um, how do I contribute to society? As a retired person from a long career, and now immersing into my art full time, what value do I bring to society? What is my role as an artist? Um, what can I bring that is something meaningful that would contribute and make a difference in someone's life? And that has been a struggle. And I know, Tammy, we're going to talk a little bit more later on in this session about how those things are beginning to come together for me with your leadership and with Frisco Art as well. So we'll talk a little more about that. But that has been the struggle, and I've been
Mhm.
thinking a lot about that. There's some of my paintings up here, Anthony. Thank you for putting those up. Thank you. So
Yeah, yeah. No,
yeah.
that's a really provocative question, honestly, is what is the value? And I think a lot of people out there can actually relate to that same question and concern as an artist, and as a musician, a dancer, and actually the entire um, profession of the arts right now is wondering that same thing, and also having to kind of quote unquote prove the value right now, while everything is shut down. And but we're seeing it intrinsically happen. I mean, we really are. That there is so much value to
Right.
the arts and to
Right.
mental health. And yes, we will talk more about that. So thank you
Yes.
for bringing up that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Chelsea, how about for you as an artist, business owner, and then COVID-19? But what is your biggest challenge, and how are you handling it?
Right. So I think in general, biggest challenge on a more like non-pandemic type of world is keeping
Mm-hmm.
myself from not being too overworked. I typically host these classes by myself, and I have assistants and things like that. But teaching 17 to 20 a month gets a little crazy, and so trying to do that, but also staying relevant to my customers and providing them new things that they can continue to do. Because typically they will come to a class and they'll like what they do. That they may come to like this Inks and Skylines class, and they don't know that I actually teach acrylic pouring or that I actually teach paint your
Mm-hmm.
pet. And so that's cool that they can continue to come back. But I have some customers that have done all the classes multiple times, and so keeping
Uh-huh.
that relevancy, keeping, them excited to come back is a challenge, to make sure that
Yeah.
I'm offering new and fun things for them.
Yeah. I mean, I think I love the paint your pet. How did that come about?
Oh, it is. So I started Color Hype in January 2018, and a month later, we got our dog Cash. And this isn't actually
Hmm.
him; this is a customer that painted their pet. But I painted Cash and posted it on my Facebook page, and people started responding like, "Hey, that would be so cool! You should teach people how to paint your pet." And I was like, oh, "That's insane!" Like for me to think that I could teach 15 to 20 people how to paint their pets, and like 2 hours later they walk away with a finished product is a little crazy. So what's cool is the photos that were just shown were actually done in their homes as a virtual paint your pet, where I wasn't even physically there, like that one right there. I wasn't
Wow.
even physically there and could not even attempt to help him in person, but he still was able to follow the direction, and that's how we've been setting it up on a virtual Zoom call. But
That's
it's
wow.
pretty incredible how we've been
That's
able
amazing.
to kind of shift, and this could allow me to do this nationwide. You know what I mean? This could allow me to
Right.
have a huge reach that I could still be able to potentially provide people. Because I have people reach out all the time. Chelsea, you should come to, this city, this, and I don't, I don't have that. I don't have the people yet. I don't have that kind of reach. But this has just opened it up. This I know now it can happen. It can work. And
Right.
so
Right.
that's what's cool. And so with the paint your pet, that's just I always say, like, if it's a crazy idea, then you just have to go for it. You just go for it, because
Yeah.
if it's crazy, it might just work, and then you might just be a genius. So
Yeah.
it has been a genius
I
idea,
love that.
and everybody has. I've had huge responses. I teach about 100 to 150 people a month in a non-pandemic world how to paint their pets.
Yes.
So it's definitely
Wow.
worth the time and effort that I put into it. It does take a lot of time. I customize each one, give each person specific notes for their pets. I give them the specific colors they
Ah.
choose for their filter. So it's all about choice. They get to choose their filter that I put on the photo for them, and then I teach them how to paint
Okay.
it. So it's pretty cool.
I mean, I was gonna say, like, these guys looked like professionals or something because every single one was so well done. But that's
Yeah.
really amazing that you cater it to each
Yeah.
person.
Right.
So, Kalika, you have some art behind you today. Can you tell us one of the
Yes.
stories behind your art?
Yeah.
Oh, I think she's frozen
Yeah.
again.
We completely self. Oh, am I? Oh,
Oh no, I think
am
you're
I?
good
Can
now.
you see me now? I'm
Yes, yeah.
okay. Okay. Sorry about that. Um, yeah, when you think about style and art, really don't know what my real style is, and I think I will always be evolving through the style. But some of the stories
Hmm.
that I like to tell about my art is what has inspired me, and what I love to do is tell people what drew me to a particular area in either in nature or an object sometimes. And I like to help to love to show the world through my eyes to other people. And my eyes also catch on things or observe things that other people might not always see. So I like to bring that forth for the beauty of the world all around us. So a couple of things that are behind me right now is Anthony, if you would go back to my, this is one of them. This, believe it or not, one of the person who saw this particular picture that Anthony just had up there, painting, thought that those circles look like COVID-19 viruses there.
Oh,
But they actually, I know. That's what someone said.
they're pretty COVID-19.
When I
No,
showed
you're
them
kidding.
my painting, yeah, they look like they thought that looked like COVID-19 virus. You know, the slides on TV and stuff. They're kind of like
Yes.
that. But anyway, believe, believe it or not, those actually are water spots and water drops in a bush, and that flower next to it, and spider webs weaving through that. So that's what that painting actually is. But it's things like that,
Wow,
the
beautiful.
little minute little things, details that catches my eye. The other one behind me right now, Anthony, if you would go back there, let me talk about this one over here, the one with the yellow and gold, that one right there that I'm pointing to. Believe it or not, this was inspired by a light fixture in the Palace of Versailles, a very, very modern, contemporary light fixture. Yeah, in Palace of Versailles. My sister and I traveled to France and went to the palace. And as we were going through the security line there, our bags being checked, I just the light fixture up there, the shiny light fixture just caught my eye, and that's what inspired that painting. Now that that painting's done, as I look at it, it looks like sails to me, and it reminds me of sails, like on a sailboat. But
Mm-hmm.
those are the kinds of things that just happen when you're painting something. You start out with one idea, and then it just kind of, through your painting process, it just evolves into something different. Another
Right.
example is the blue one behind me. That was actually inspired by a McLaren automotive. My son-in-law works
Oh,
for
wow.
McLaren in England. My daughter, yeah, my daughter and son-in-law and their little son, they live in outside of London, and he works for McLaren. So one time when we were visiting, we went to the McLaren plant there, his work, and all these fancy, super duper fancy, expensive sports cars out there were on display, and all the lights shining on them, the profile, the aerodynamics, those kinds of things just kind of piqued my interest, and that's what inspired that blue painting that's back there. So you never know what would strike my fancy and inspire me to paint
Yeah.
something. So it's yeah.
Well, I think I could, I think I definitely could be inspired to paint something if I saw McLaren. So I'll
Yeah,
volunteer
that's right.
to go over
That's
to
right.
London and
Yeah.
see all those
Yeah.
cars.
All right. We'll, we'll,
But
we'll have to
speaking,
do that one day.
yes, definitely, definitely. Speaking about travel, I know Chelsea, you love to travel as well, and in fact, you were out in Ireland and London as well, right before all of this hit. But you were planning a trip for your color hype classes, your creative tour. So tell us a little bit about what was going to be planned and maybe if it's going to be happening still.
Sure. So that trip we took wasn't actually a creative tour. That was just kind of like um, it was actually a tour that I had taken. I had planned with students before I had quit teaching last year, and so we actually had some students on that tour with us. And then it got cut short, and we had to come home because of the travel bans and everything that started to come down. And so, but yes, I have been working with a friend. Her name is Leah Thrapp. She works with, or she owns a company called Flip Flops and Adventures, and she creates these curated tours. And she travels all over Europe, and it's a very specific feel. Like she travels with them, and she like really creates fun experiences, but also kind of like low key where you're not like super stressed. And so I really wanted something like that. And so it's really random how it even came about with the creative tour. I took a group of students to Italy and France last summer, and it was a creative tour. So we painted in the Borghese Gardens, and we did a fresco
Wow.
art workshop in Florence, and then we sketched in the Luxembourg Gardens, and all of these things, like having that creative experience plus a travel cultural experience really meshed together and made me really want that. And I knew if I was going to
Yes.
quit teaching that I probably wouldn't be able to do that with students very much longer. But I was like, maybe with adults, it might be even just a little bit more fun because I could have some wine while I'm on that tour.
Exactly.
I was like,
Yes.
I
Yeah.
tried to think, like with adults, like how would I even bring that? How would I design that? How would I do that? And so I was painting a mural for my friend Leah, who owns that company, and at her house, and I just mentioned it to her, and she was like, "That could happen. Like that's going to happen. That's not that's not a dream, Chelsea.
Right.
That's literally that's going to happen." And so
Yeah.
we started working on it, and we put it into motion. And so the trip is actually in October. fingers
Okay.
crossed that Italy's borders will be
Mm-hmm.
open back then. And so, but we will be in Florence and then also in a small Tuscany farm right outside of San Gimignano. And we'll be able to, like, the goal here is that they will take their favorite scene photo that they've taken throughout the week. They're going to send that to me.
Okay.
And during the week, I'm going to sketch it out for them on a board, like a wooden board. And then I'm going to teach them while we sit out on a little, patio overlooking the farm, and I'm going to teach them how to paint their favorite scene. So it would be
Wow.
a beautiful experience.
Yes,
So
for
hopefully
sure, for sure.
that actually happens. I mean, I was actually supposed to
Yeah.
test it this week. I was supposed to be in Florence,
Oh,
and
oh.
this week it's a sad day.
I
Um,
know. It is
I'm going
sad.
to come
It
home
is
in like
sad.
2 days. But yeah, I would actually probably be teaching the class today. Okay, so um, a
Oh,
little bit devastated, but
what a
it'll
bummer.
happen,
I know.
and I can only make it better from here. I can only plan more and make more,
Right.
additions to it that are going to make it way more worth it when we do go. And hopefully, fingers crossed, we will go in October. Like, that's the goal. But if it
Yes.
doesn't happen,
Oh
then we
my
will go.
gosh.
But it's halfway
Yeah.
sold out right
Yeah.
now.
No. That's
And so we're
great.
super, super excited.
That's
That's
exciting. Yeah,
great.
definitely. Well, I hope the, travel still a reality at that point. I mean, hopefully by October. I can't imagine. So, because I would love to go. I'm
Right.
volunteering right now. We'll go there, and then I will also go visit the McLaren factory or
Yes.
whatever in London too.
Yes, we have to
So,
do that.
yes. So, Kalika, I have one more question for you before we go to our favorite question that I always ask. But, Kalika, I know that you've got a heart not only for arts and health, but also for veterans. And that, there's some things brewing, I will say, on how we can bring that all together. But tell us a little bit
Yes.
where that came from, your heart for veterans, too.
Yeah, okay. Being in healthcare and veterans issues kind of go hand in hand. Our veterans have so many healthcare issues, physical, mental, psychological, all of those kinds of things. So that just kind of goes hand in hand together. The veterans
Mm-hmm.
are very close to my heart as well, because there's several veterans in my family, very close to me. My father was well, that's my sister. I'll talk about her. Hi, Akka, if you're out there. I know she's listening. This is my sister. She has since retired, but this is when she was in Iraq. She's a dentist by profession, and she was flying all over Iraq in those Black Hawk helicopters. I don't know if Anthony, you got a picture of that. Being shot at all over Iraq, was setting up dental clinics for our soldiers out there. So very, very proud of her. Her husband,
Wow.
Jimmy, also is a retired colonel. They're both U.S. Army retired colonels. My father was in World War II in the British Army as a medical officer. He was a surgeon and ran a MASH unit like Alan Alda and the TV series MASH. So he was
Yeah.
operating there in the battlefield out there. And we heard lots of stories, World War II stories from him. And the guy I'm dating right now, Wendell, hi Wendell, if you're out there, shout out to you
Hey,
as
Wendell.
well. He is a Vietnam veteran. He worked on those Huey helicopters, and
Wow.
these helicopters during the war would go out to the battlegrounds and pick up wounded soldiers, bring them back to the medical units for care. So veterans are very, very close to my heart. And I think, one of the ways, by working with them through addressing their issues, I think we can give back to them the sacrifices that they have made for our freedom.
Mm-hmm.
So, and here the opportunity with you, Tammy, and you'll be talking about this, I'm sure. There's an opportunity here to work together, bring not only my passion for art and my passion for healthcare, but also my passion and a place in my heart for veterans together to begin to address those issues through my art and bringing all of those things together. And, earlier I talked about challenges and struggles. How can I be meaningful and
Mm-hmm.
bring value to society through my art. And I think this is, I think to me, this is an opportunity for me to do that. And I'll hand it out to you, Tammy, to talk a little more about that.
Sure. Well, we'll just give a little teaser. First, I love the fact that, all of those worlds are coming together for you to make that impact. And
Yeah,
at Frisco Arts,
yeah,
we had started some arts panels where we're exploring arts with other sectors and keeping the arts in the conversation. So we had an arts and health panel that we did last October, and then we did arts and sports. We were going to do arts and fashion here in the spring, but we're going to have to postpone that one. But in October, arts and veterans is what's coming up next, and then we're hoping to do some more initiatives with Kalika, and we'll roll that out and people will find out, and I think it's gonna be really exciting. So
yeah.
so let's shift gears
It is. It's
a
very
little bit,
exciting.
and yes, and talk a little bit about some advice that we have, and the question that I always love to ask, which is, what would your current self tell your younger self, and why? So Chelsea, let's start with you.
Okay. So younger self, current self, that's the question, right?
Yeah, so what would your current self tell your younger self?
I think that I would probably say just trust the journey. I
Mm,
I feel like I've lived lots of different lives, right? So I got my MBA, and then I was in banking. I think a lot of the life experiences I have attribute to the success I have right now, and how I deal with people. So with the banking, I was able to deal with customers and kind of understand that that grace you need to have with dealing with the public, and when people have issues, how to solve them. And then when I moved into teaching, I was able to develop those relationships with students and understand that there are different ways to teach different people. So if you need to
mm-hmm.
shift the way that you're teaching, then you need to learn how to do that. And so that was incredible to be able to learn that. I was also a math teacher for a while because I have a business
Oh,
degree.
wow.
That's actually how I started. And so, there are so many different things that I've done and that have taught me so many different life experiences. And so I would just say to my younger self, don't question it. Just go.
Mm,
Whatever happens,
yes.
let it happen. Just because you
Mhm.
just don't know. You don't know, like
Yeah,
what this is preparing you for in the future. What am I going through right now with COVID-19 and having to redesign the whole business, right? To make it to where it's still a thriving business. It's been crazy. So you never know what
Right.
experience that you're going through, how it's going to shape you for the future.
Very good word. Kalika, how about you? What would your current self tell your
yeah,
younger self, and why?
yeah. My current self would tell my younger self to trust yourself, listen to your heart, quiet your soul, and listen to your inner voice. And continually try to improve yourself and continue to learn and grow and evolve. I mean, if we don't if we're not learning, life is a journey, and it's you're learning all the time. And that would
Mm-hmm.
be something I would also tell the younger people that are out there listening to never stop learning. And, it doesn't have to be academic formal education. You learn from your mistakes, you learn from your life experiences, learn a new hobby, learn the history of a place if you're traveling somewhere. But learning, I think that's very important. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what I would tell my younger self. And I continue to tell that to myself as well. I will never stop learning. And I will always be learning and evolving and trying to do better, not only for myself, but to help others to be better and do better for themselves as well.
Right. No, that's very good. And I think that's an important message for all of us. I mean, we're all having to learn again, and reinvent. And like
Yeah,
Chelsea said, we got to trust the
right.
journey, that we can only go as far as what we can see for now. And then once we get there, I do believe that we'll see more. and then we just keep going.
Right.
But we just can't give up on
Right.
what we're working on. So, well, I just want to thank you both. You guys were so real and honest, and just really inspiring. So thank you both for doing what you're doing, and creating, and sharing your heart with others through your art. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, thank you all for joining us today for our bonus Ladies Who Launch. I do think that we're all on different journeys. And so the more that we can take from others and their experiences, the more it helps us on whatever journey we're on. So our next Ladies Who Launch will actually be Cinco de Mayo. We had these great grand plans of decorating our space, and it's also Taco Tuesday, so we were going to have tacos. It's going to be amazing. So I just encourage you to, get out your tacos on May 5th and join us for Cinco de Mayo for our virtual Ladies Who Launch again. And if you'd like to support Frisco Arts, we invite you to do so by going to our website, and you can donate your lunch ticket. If you just go to register, you can click on that purple button. And of course, we have to thank our presenting sponsor, Lori McCagran, again for her support. And thank you to Anthony for making this possible, because we wouldn't be able to stream it to you and get it to you guys. And remember, we'll put it all in a YouTube video, and it'll be on our channel ready to go. So until then, I'm sending you guys a big virtual hug. Miss you all. And I look forward to seeing you soon on May 5th. See you later.